It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Bo, you asked the question. We'll answer it. What is rebalancing and what's its purpose?
Sure.
Now, I have my thoughts, but you picked on me in show prep. You said, good thing you're covering this topic since we all know that, when it comes to who's actually hitting the execute button, it's more of us guys in the trenches. So you picked on me about that. So I'm going to give you the chance to go ahead and flex then if you're saying I'm getting old and not hitting the execute button as much as I used to.
Yeah, so in its simplest form, rebalancing is really getting your investment allocation back to the appropriate target. And a real easy way to think about it is if you're supposed to have a 60-40 portfolio and one piece of that moves differently than the other piece, you may very quickly turn into a 65-35 portfolio.
Now, when you say, because I like to keep this simple and the smart, when you say 60-40, I want to make sure, because we have people of all ages,
Sure.
all education levels with their finances. A lot of times when we talk about asset allocation, we're going to speak in very broad terms. But when we talk about asset allocation, we could be going as detailed as talking about how much you have in international, how much you have in real estate, how much you have domestically between large companies, small companies. Right. I mean, you could bonds, cash, those are all different asset classes. But when you hear somebody talk about 60-30 or 70-30, 60-40, it's you always go add up to 100. They're usually talking about risk assets versus conservative assets, correct, Bo?
That's right.
When you throw those numbers out there.
That's exactly right.
And what we're talking about when we say risk assets, when we talk about like a 60-40, when you say 60% is going to be risk, they mean stocks. They mean that probably equities, whether it's real estate or something, but they mean you're going to have equities,
right.
Or on the risk spectrum, and then the conservative stuff might be bonds.
Sure.
And when I say like real estate, you might be buying REITs or
right.
even buying straight up real estate,
Yep.
but that would take out the equity side of it. But it's interesting to think about it from a risk versus a conservative side.
So what rebalancing means is that you sell the things that have gotten above the allocation that you want in there, and you buy the things that are below the allocation you want. So that's kind of what rebalancing is in sort of its simplest form. So then the next question you ask, Brian, is why should I rebalance, or why is that important to rebalance?
Think about it. You buy a 60-40 portfolio, meaning 60% stocks, 40% bonds, if we're doing it in its simplest form.
Sure.
After we have a financial market like we've had, it wouldn't be uncommon, even if the bonds never lost a dollar, you could wake up and your portfolio could very quickly be a 70-30 split, meaning because the stocks have gone up, you've got a 70% of your assets in stocks, 30% in bonds. And what does that mean? That's one of the things we're going to cover today is that I think under traditional terms, you would automatically rebalance.
Sure.
Just because you'd want to immediately get it back to a 60-40 split. That's more of the traditional take. We're going to talk about it how in the Wall Street Journal article, it mentions, piggy bank's a prettier picture, that maybe that's not necessarily the right action.